Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to give a quick introduction and an overview about how the first language English paper for IGCSE looks like. The syllabus code is 0500 and there are two components, which is paper 1 and paper 2. So without further ado, let me just quickly share my screen so that you all can see the presentation to understand the syllabus better. So usually people might be thinking for the IGCSE first language English paper, how many exams does one need to take and how long are they? And also what kind of questions will be featuring on the paper? So all the answers for these questions are right here in my presentation. So how many exams? There are two. Paper 1 is called as reading, which is for 2 hours. Paper 2, which is called as directed writing and composition, which is for 2 hours. What kind of questions will feature on the paper? So we are going to try to understand different questions on paper 1. Also, we will be looking at some of the questions on paper 2 also. So these are the two objectives that we would be looking at today. So first thing first, let's start looking at paper 1 first. So we're going to look into the format and types of questions on the language paper 1. So as I mentioned before, paper 1, which is reading paper, is for 2 hours and it is 80 marks. So this paper is made up of 3 questions and from 3 different texts. And it assesses the following reading objectives, which is there right on the screen for you all to see. And it's not just reading objectives which is assessed, it is also assessing the writing objectives, because this paper is all about reading and writing. And of course, it's an English language paper. So these are the keywords that one must keep in mind, especially the students, while they are attempting to write. So they need to identify the implicit meaning, they need to identify the explicit meaning, they need to analyze, evaluate, articulate, comprehend, and also register. So question 1 will have a comprehension and summary. So questions 1A to E will be in response to text A. And students need to answer these questions. They need to identify the answers from the text and then they have to explain in their own words. So this is a sample of how a question might look like. And that's how a sample of a passage. And this could be a possible answer to the passage. Again, to add on to the further types of questions, to see how a question looks like, this could be another pattern. So this is another type of question, and these can be the possible answers. So if you notice, the questions are not repetitive, and each and every question is unique in its own way. Now, question 1F. From question 1F, actually, it requires the students to read and understand text B, and they have to write a summary of a maximum 120 words that focuses on 2 specific areas. So students need to really read the question carefully. Sometimes lack of reading leads to student not being able to answer the questions carefully. So a gentle reminder to students, please read the question till the last full stop. So this can be a possible example of how a summary question might look like, and they are definitely marked for reading and writing skills. So they have to choose the right information. Question 2 is short answer questions and language tasks. So question 2 will begin with short answer questions, which will ask students to identify words with certain meanings and explain the meaning of the words. So vocabulary or knowledge of vocabulary is of utmost importance, because then only they would be able to infer and explain what it means. So again, this is a possible example of a question, and that's how an answer should look like. And it continues. In question 2 again, it requires students to choose one example to show that they understand how writers create effects and influences the reader. So, they would just definitely give them like 3 or 4 sentences, and students need to choose one sentence and explain it in detail. And the sample answer is given on the screen. Now, the final part of question 2 actually requires the students to focus on 2 paragraphs and write between 200 to 300 words to analyze the language in an extract. And the mark scheme as to how the examiners award the marks to the students is going to be shown on the next page of my slide. So this is how a I mean, I would say not the potential. This is how a sample question looks like. So they would ask students to read two particular paragraphs and then identify words or phrases which the students need to identify and explain it in detail for roughly around 300 words and not more than that. So this is the rubric. So this is the marking scheme based upon which all the examiners from around the world who are marking the scripts would need to refer to, and students are awarded marks based upon this. The highest being 15, the lowest being 0. Question 3 is a basically extended response to reading. It requires students to respond to text C, which is testing their writing skills and their ability to develop and extend the ideas in the text. So students really need to read the passage clearly, understand what is required, understand the implicit and the explicit meaning, identify the points, and then write. It can be any kind of directed writing. It can be a letter, article, news report, journal, speech, interview, etc., etc. So students need to be familiar with all kinds of writing formats. Again, 15 marks are given for the content, that is identification of points, and 10 marks are given for the quality of their writing. So in total, it's 25 marks. So as I mentioned again, the exam timing for this paper is 80 total marks, and the exam lasts for 2 hours. And questions 1A to E is for 15 marks. Question 1F, which is summary, is for 15 marks. Question 2, the entire section, is for 25 marks. And question 3 is for 25 marks. So broadly, this is how paper 1 looks like. So usually I would always advise students to finish their exams by within 1 hour, 15 minutes, so that they have the last 10 minutes to check. So that in case if they've missed out on anything or they want to do corrections, they have enough time. If they continue writing till the last minute, it becomes quite difficult. So I hope this it makes it quite clear for you all to understand what exactly or how exactly a paper 1 looks like. Now moving on to paper 2. Now, what is the difference between paper 1 and paper 2, and what objectives do these different papers assess the students on? So this is what we're going to look at right now for paper 2. So what is my objective right now? We are going to understand the format and types of questions on language paper 2. To begin, paper 2 is called as directed writing and composition. It's a 2-hour paper with which is worth 80 marks. And this paper has 2 sections, and students need to answer 1 question from each. So again, these are the assessment objectives, which is both reading and writing, which is right now on the screen. I'm sure you all can read to understand it better. Again, the same words like paper 1, students need to remember implicit meaning, explicit meaning. They need to analyze, they need to evaluate, they need to articulate, and also register. So for this question, usually, which is the first question in section A, which is directed writing, 40 marks, they need to spend 1 hour on this section. So students need to read 1 or 2 texts and then use and develop the information in the text to create some kind of argumentative, discursive, or persuasive speech, letter, or article. So they need to write between 250 to 350 words, and 25 marks are actually given for their writing skills and 15 marks are for their reading skills. So that's how it makes it 40 marks. A challenge for the students, yet if they are able to understand, then for sure they will be able to score well. So these are a few things that they have to understand. What is the meaning of the discursive writing? What is the meaning of argumentative writing? And what is the meaning of persuasive writing? This is how an marking rubric looks like for writing. So the highest being 25 and the lowest being 0. And this is how the marking rubrics for reading looks like, the highest being 15 and the lowest being 0. So 25 and 15 put together gives you 40. Now moving on to section B, this is composition. Students usually love doing this section because they get to choose between writing an essay, which can either be narrative or descriptive. So they need to use the title to develop and write a composition. So this can be a sample question. This is how, or maybe this is how an exam paper might look like. So they need to choose one amongst these 4. Now, this is exactly how the marking scheme would be looking like for students. 24 marks are given for style and accuracy. So students have to really pay a lot of attention in the choice of vocabulary, grammar, etc., etc. And 16 marks are given for the content and the structure. So the paragraphing, the story, plot, how different and unique it is, whether it is out of the box or anything like that would be taken into consideration. And of course, the highest being 16, the lowest being 0. And likewise, in the previous one, highest being 24 and the lowest being 0. So this is how basically both paper 1 and paper 2 looks like. I'm sure you all understood what both these papers, but if you have any other questions or any other queries, please feel free to ask me. Thank you. Okay, so we before the holidays we were looking into figurative languages and the importance of figurative language, and you guys, as part of your holiday homework, you had to group or team up or pair up to identify English songs which actually uses figurative languages. Okay, so now we have two groups. I think we're going to present and let's see what songs you guys have identified. So right
Yeah,
now the stage is all yours, guys. Go for
yeah.
it.
Hello, everyone. We are the Three Musketeers. So, all right. So, yeah, we'll get started now. Jovan, Devik, and me, Ragid. Right. So, the three songs we've chosen was Bohemian Rhapsody, Hey Jude, and Mirrorball by Taylor Swift. So, let's get started.
Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen is a song written by Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the band. So, this song is about depicting how he fantasizes his life could have been. And yeah, it's like a really good song. And it was pretty disruptive when it first came out because it's very different. There are three different sets of music in the same song. So, something people had not really seen before. The first line, caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. So here, landslide refers to like a difficult situation, thus indicating that Freddy's reality is pretty bad, and he has no effect. He has no like way to escape it. So this was a metaphor. The next one, I'm just a poor boy. I need no sympathy. So here, the hyperbole is that he addresses himself as poor, which is not true because he was pretty rich. Yeah, and the line also contains this juxtaposition as he refers to himself as poor, but he still says he doesn't need any sympathy. So yeah, that's very contrasting over there. And those two lines have the same melody, just different lyrics. Sends shivers down my spine is an alteration with the repetition of the sound S here. Sends shivers and spine all have the letter S with it starts with. Shivers down my spine is a pretty common metaphor that's for saying one is scared or shocked. Never, never, never let me go. This line uses the word never as an emphasis, which makes a repetition.
Hey Jude. So, by the Beatles. Now, I'll be covering the literary devices using this song. So, first slide. Remember to let her into your heart. So once again, we're starting off with a metaphor, and the heart in this case represents love. So let her into your heart means, let her love you. That's a metaphor. Now move on to the next line. Yes, don't carry the world upon your shoulders. Now in this case, once again, it's a metaphor of uptaking too much responsibility. And the word here is used as a hyperbole. He's stating that his responsibilities and struggles are so great, it's as if he's carrying a world upon his shoulders, right? So yeah, next slide. Once again, for the record, it wasn't my idea. This was Devik's idea, but na 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 is alliteration and repetition used in this part of the song, right? To provide emphasis and just make it sound good. So I think we can move on.
Yeah, so I'm doing a Taylor Swift song. So the song we're doing here is Middle Ball, and in the song Taylor Swift says, I'm a middle ball. So this is a metaphor. So Taylor Swift compares herself to a literal middle ball. You can see the PNG over there. Taylor Swift as a literal middle ball. Yeah, so what she's trying to convey through this metaphor is that it shows her many personalities that people see. So she's a very prominent public figure, right? So people see her many personalities that she wants the public to see, and also her partner. Yeah. So the next line is drunk as they watch my shattered edges glisten. So shattered glass is visual imagery, and it again shows shininess. They watch her edges glisten and do all that, like the press and stuff. Yeah. So drunk is a metaphor referring to amazement. So she's amazed and so in awe that she feels as if she's drunk. Yeah. So thank you everyone for
Yep, thank you.
presentation.
Well, I think that was a good presentation and good choice of songs. There was a variety, and especially the selection of Beatles, because I'm not sure how many of you have actually heard Beatles or you're even aware, because Beatles definitely did not belong to my era. It was, I think belonged to my grandmom's and my mom's era. So it's nice that you guys have listened. And David, that was nice choice of putting in na 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 na. That just breaks me. Okay? It's a
Yeah.
good one with that. So okay, so since we've done with the boys, now we have the girls presenting. Now let's go for the girls and see what all they have identified, what songs. So it's yours right now, girls.
Just tell me if you can see the thing, please.
Yep, we all can see. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. So, figurative language and songs, and it's done by me, Sarah, and Gauri and Zaya. So we've each picked 2 songs, and we've picked like one line from the songs to speak about, like one figurative language example. And they're all pretty recent, popular songs, and each of us are going to do 2 of them. So I think so. I'm just going to proceed. So for my 2 songs, we have "Love the Way You Lie," which is my first song by Rihanna and Eminem. And "When It's Going Good, It's Going Great" is a verse from Eminem's rap, like in the song. And he speaks of how he's talking about his relationship, and then he's talking about how like there's like sometimes there's like bad parts, but there's also good parts, and that's why they're like a great team. And here it's an example of alliteration because there's repetition of the G sounds like in "going good" and like "going great." So that's why it's an example of alliteration. And the song for Taylor Swift, "Along with Me," is also a song where she's talking about the person that she loves, or like the person that makes her the happiest. And she's used hyperbole here to say that you've got a smile that could light up the whole town. Obviously, it is impossible for a human smile to physically light up a whole town. And that is why it's a exaggeration, but it's supposed to speak for a person who just has a really bright or really bright personality, or someone who just like their smile can make you happy or just change your life. And that's what it speaks for. And now we have Gauri.
Yeah, because I feel like such an insomniac. This is a line from Fireflies by Owl City. It's also simile because it's comparing 2 different things. Using the word like, you can also use the word as. So you can see that he's comparing himself to an insomniac because he doesn't get enough sleep. Sorry, next slide. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. It's a line from All Star by Smash Mouth. It's a metaphor. It also compares 2 things, but not using the word like or as. So in this, he compares himself to a tool in the shed, specifically a blunt tool, because he's basically implying that it takes him some more time to understand, like a blunt tool would, to get a job done.
Zaya.
Islam is a metaphor as it isn't literal. Instead, it uses imagery to compare the man's life events to a landslide. It helps us understand that the events are troublesome and dangerously overwhelming for the man. Personification is the attribution of a human characteristic to something non-human. Here, the lights are given a human trait. It guides the person.
That is it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, indeed. Thank you very much. I think that was also good selection of songs, though I did notice that there was a copyright issue because both the groups have selected the a common song. Yeah, but that was a good selection, girls, and you had a variety to show. You showed personification, you had metaphor, you had lots of things. So that was really nice.